John, we'll start with you.
Okay, so my name is John Nielsen. I am running for City Council in Redmond because I've got little kids who live here. Redmond has been my home for 20 years, and after spending 15 years working with the public and community banking, serving on the Ready Board, being a member of Rotary, I am looking for additional ways to give back. My career has been kind of helping individuals, families, and businesses solve their problems, help them live their dreams and avoid catastrophe. And I think that Redmond is really poised going forward to have all the tools that we need to own the future, but we've got to have good people with vision and an open mind and transparent, honest government if we're going to continue to succeed and to grow as a community.
Thank you, John. Bill, why don't you go ahead?
All right, thank you. I'm Bill Trumbull, and the reason I'm running for City Council is that I have a goal or a vision to keep Redmond the place where we will want to live 20 years from now. And I think I can bring something to the table to facilitate that. I've got a lot of experience in service. I'm a veteran. I've been 6 years in the Navy nuclear submarine service. I've been a caretaker for family and friends. I've done quite a bit in the community, from being on water boards, on heritage foundations, where I was president of one of the homeowners associations in Redmond. I've been a co-founder of Neighbors for Redmond, a community group. And in other places I've lived, I've been on the State Conservation Committee. I've been on the State Land Use Board. And through my career, I developed some expertise in conflict resolution, which I think can be helpful. So I was in higher education as a professor or department chair, a dean, provost, vice president for academic affairs, and a senior vice president. I was sought after for conflict resolution help and was successful in helping to mediate and solve some serious problems. And I think that's something that I can bring to the Redmond City Council that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, you want to go?
I'm going to apologize in advance for the sun that's like illuminating me right at this moment. It will pass.
It's not a problem for us if it isn't a problem for you, Catherine.
Okay, it's giving a weird, it doesn't bother me, but it's giving all a crazy glare on the screen. All right, so my name is Catherine Osborne, and I'm running for Redmond City Council. I've lived here for the better part of 14 years, live, work, serve, play. I have 2 young children, 5 and 9 years old. I'm married to a wildland firefighter, and I too work in wildland fire for a company headquartered right here in Redmond. And our family, we fundraise for communities and families affected by wildfire. I serve our community on many committees. I'm a member of the Downtown Urban Renewal Advisory Committee, where our goal is to, be family and business friendly and create a positive economic environment. I'm on the housing subcommittee, where we identify housing opportunities, and on the parking subcommittee, where we plan ahead for infrastructure. I also volunteer at the Bright Side Animal Shelter Thrift Store, volunteer with our houseless community at the street kitchen, cooling shelters, cleanups. Redmond, I volunteer at Redmond Senior Center and a few other places. And I also play here. I'm a soccer coach, I'm a basketball coach, chasing little kids all over the place and trying to make sure that they have a great community in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine. Kat?
Trying to unmute there.
There you go.
So I'm Kat Zwicker. I have lived in Redmond for 22 years. I moved here to be closer to my family with the end goal to take care of a trailing parent. And that is my current life right now. My 83-year-old mother is coming to live with me and I will be her caretaker. I own a small business here in Redmond and have operated Desert Sky Real Estate since 2008, but I've been a licensed realtor for 28 years. And I am the current sitting board president for the Central Oregon Association of Realtors. I'm very active in the Child Care Task Force. I sit on the board of the Economic Development Committee for Central Oregon, and I'm engaged in a variety of different volunteer activities to try to work with different ways to find affordable housing and different housing types through the real estate board. And I also am a liaison to Parks and Rec. So kind of a busy human, but I enjoy it. And that's why I'm running for council. I feel like the best thing I can do for my community that I love is to give back to my community. I was on Planning Commission from 2018 to 2021, where I accepted an appointment to City Council. John Bullock stepped down and they had applications that they were looking for. And they interviewed their top 4, in which I was one of, and I was lucky enough to get the seat. I love being on City Council because its experience is fabulous, where I can talk to the community and bring things really to the forefront and actually be in the middle of the problems and help get them solved. I am also a professional negotiator and mediator for the Oregon Real Estate Board. So I can also help mediate these things as they come on board. And I just want an opportunity to continue to work for my community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we're going to jump around a little bit, asking questions here. Let's see. I think we'll just start right away with the homelessness question. This is a significant issue facing all the communities in Oregon. What do you believe is the city's role specifically in trying to address this issue? And we'll start with Bill on this one.
All right, homelessness and the unhoused is certainly a major problem in Redmond. For the first time ever since I've lived here, I've seen houses as you drive down 97 at the entrance of Redmond. And we can no longer afford what I think has been the city's role that it has chosen for addressing housing, which has been out of sight, out of mind. We need to address this. We need to provide transitional housing, both high and low barrier transitional housing, because while I do think high barrier is likely more successful, we cannot leave people out. We need to give them a place to live. We need to give them services such as mental health services, substance abuse services, cleanliness services, and give them a chance to come through what is clearly a rough time. Now, they're not going to come in to our shelters or to our housing unless we can meet their needs. They have animals that they want to bring with them. They have property that they want to keep locked up and not have stolen. And so we have a need to address their needs. And I think that there are opportunities to do that. The Rogue Retreat in Medford is a good example of multiple approaches to this. We've got to have the city buy into this, create transitional housing, and give these people the love and care that they need to make it through. I'm done.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to, we'll just keep going around in the same direction. So Catherine, you are next.
Okay. The direction's different on the screen for me, sorry.
Yeah, you'll get used to the order, you know, Bill, Catherine, you'll follow Bill and so on.
Perfect. So obviously the role of the city councilor is to be a policy maker and to put in policy making things that benefit the needs of all community members, and also to really set performance objectives with staff and to create collaborations with service providers, staff members, and community volunteers to meet whatever you decide is the main goal. And obviously right now our housing and houseless crisis is directly correlated to one another, and we as a city council will need to set the objective to make housing and houselessness a priority. And from there, we're going to have to figure out ways that can fit into our budgets. And I'll give you an example of that. DURAC, Downtown Urban Renewal Advisory Committee, was able to use some of its budget resources while I was chair to bring in the Midtown Housing Project, which provided workforce housing to the medical and retail downtown core, much needed relief. The more we as leaders promote that as a priority, the more those creative solutions will come to light. And in the past, a lot of that funding for our houseless community has come from the county, but that does not mean that we can do a better job as leaders partnering and finding solutions, because it is something we have to tackle, and we have to tackle it yesterday.
Thank you. All right, we are on to Kat.
So I think I feel very lucky to have been involved in the group that helped hire Cheyenne Harrington when she was interviewing for our Strategic Houseless Priorities Director. And the Intergovernmental Council and the agency work that we're seeing in coordination between city and county, I think is tantamount to having success with our unhoused. You can't just play a game of fix it here and then let it drift over there. So I think having that ability to work across our city and county lines is definitely part of the city policy and what we need to do. The city is trying very hard right now to put things in place with safe parking and to work with some of our community partners. I think we face what a lot of us face is that people are afraid of what they don't know. So getting these programs up and running, getting that transitional housing, whether it's low barrier or intermittent housing for people coming out of crisis, those are things that we're sadly missing, and we need to work on and allocate some spaces for. And we can do that quickest and best with our private partners, because they actually move a lot faster sometimes than government. So I think we need to help them through the permitting process and getting things done a little bit better. And then just really focus on the prioritization of making sure that people are doing the correct process and getting people documented so they can get into the programs that work for them. We have different subsets of the unhoused. Catherine and I have both been out in the field. We've cleaned up trash, we've provided water, we've done the shelters, participated in the Rogue Valley Poverty Retreat with pretty much everyone on this screen, I believe. And I think that what we've learned is that everybody has different needs. So to have services that we can direct them to identify their needs and help them the quickest will be some of the biggest helps that we can do. And that's probably where I'll stop on that.
Great. And we'll round it out with John.
So it's hard to go last on this one, because I think we all see the need, and I think we all share a lot of the same goals and ideas. What I would emphasize, in addition to kind of what's already been said in a lot of ways, is that I think the city has not done a great job of acting as a partner to a lot of these non-governmental organizations, a lot of the charity groups, the safe parking. They have the support now, but it took a long time to bring some of the existing counselors on board. The Shepherd's House, Bethlehem Inn, they've all gotten some level of pushback, and for various reasons, and they've had some levels of success. What I would like us to do is to provide services, at least educational and supportive services, to some of these groups, to allow them to share best practices, to allow them to act as force multipliers for each other. I chair the Rotary Homeless Action Committee. And so like what we've done is as Rotary, we paid for the first tiny house for the Oasis Village project. We're in the process of putting together some roundtable discussions with Jim Cook and the Oasis Village leadership to bring in community members, to bring in business leaders and non-politicians who are active in this role, so that we can remove some of the stigma behind both sides of the argument. And you can't say, well, we want to help the homeless, and then you're immediately branded as, oh, we want to give every person a free house, and that's not the case. And you can't say, well, we need policing, and now you're against treating these people with dignity. That's also not the case. So early on, one of the things that the city can do is provide a safe environment where these groups can come together and talk and share and figure out ways to work together without vilifying the other side.
Thank you. Judy, go ahead.
Yeah, shall I go on to the next one? Or do you want me to-
Yeah, I just decided to
Okay,
keep this thing going on.
so
Um,
where do we want you to
Could
jump
have
in?
elaborate on affordable housing.
Okay, yeah, if you could, we've sort of touched on that a little bit with the homelessness issue, but what would be, could you elaborate on what your approach would be to supporting more affordable housing in Redmond?
And this one starts
With
with Catherine.
Catherine? Yeah.
I was like, who starts? I think one of the best things we,
oh, sorry,
Hey,
wait.
Cat, not Cat, Catherine, sorry. Catherine, you're up.
It's not the first time that's happened. It's okay.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Won't be the last either. I think one of the things that I really listened to was when Senator Wyden was in town and he was talking about how we need to expand the number of tax credits available for housing, how we need to also add a middle income tax credit. And I was really thinking about that. And I've sat and I've listened to staff as they do the work to seek the developers, as they seek out the people who can implement these housing projects. And I look at it as a city council who is vocalizing their support for implementation of these projects is really important. Because when you see a city is standing up and saying, come here, build, we have jobs, we have work, and we have land, and we have resources, and we will help you with the tax credits, and we will, what is the word I'm looking for here? We will embrace you. I think that's really important. That's something that I don't think that Redmond has done. A lot of actions have been taken that say maybe homelessness isn't our top priority publicly, no matter what's happening behind the scenes, because I know our citizens behind the scenes are doing the work. I know our commissions are doing the work. We have so many great people in place, but the public voice and reputation of our town maybe doesn't make that a priority. And so supporting all efforts to attract the builders, to identify and get a hold of pieces of property to build on, to reduce blight. I think that's what we can do. We can use our voices to support the measures.
Thank you. Cat,
would you repeat the question? I want to make sure I'm understanding it.
Yes, you bet. Can you elaborate on what your approach would be to supporting more affordable housing in Redmond?
Okay, so there's two types of housing that I'm going to talk about here. There's affordable housing, and then there's workforce housing, both of which we're lacking. I would imagine that affordable housing right now in Redmond, pretty much as it is in Bend, should be for people at 30, 40, and maybe 80% AMI of the average median income. And that's what we really need to promote to get our builders to want to build. There's not a profit margin sometimes there for them without a little help. So whether we want to look at a community land trust where we're having the land be a leasehold and the only thing being actually purchased is the sticks and bricks, which lowers the cost. That's one model we should be looking at, maybe doing the tax abatement or some sort of SDC deferral to help mitigate the cost as they come out the door. So there are some different things we should look at. And my favorite would be the density bonus. If you're going to come in and help us with this, and we'll let you build this many more homes per acre, which could help them recoup some of that cost as well. So there are some things that we can certainly talk about to get in there. And then for workforce housing, it's kind of the same structure. We just need to make sure that are we doing the best we can by our workforce? Can we get, some buy-in from some of the different people, bringing people here to help, like with the community land trust model? Some of our larger companies could help purchase the land and do the leasehold portion, and always create that permanent affordable housing for people to come back to, not just a 5-year deed restriction, but a 40, 50, or 90-year deed restriction. So we're creating pockets of permanent affordable housing throughout the community. And it shouldn't be the last thing built, it should be the first thing built. I know that sounds crazy, but often we annex in a property, and what happens is a lot of the neighborhood that gets built out is the single family, the townhouses, fair market stuff, and then that's the last thing to come forward, but it's the first thing we need. So I'd like to see some of that happen as well.
great. John, I think it's you're up now.
So it's hard to follow Kat on this one because she is the subject matter expert when it comes to real estate here. I think as far as affordable housing, we really do need to take that all options on the table approach to it, because we need apartments, we need condos, we need townhouses, we need single family dwellings. And well, again, the city doesn't build the houses, they do create the policies and the environment in which those things get built. And I think a lot of what Kat touched on is really valuable and is absolutely something that we need to look at. I also think we need to consider what the impact of infrastructure is going to be, which I know is not exactly the point of this question, but it's such a complex issue that you really can't separate it from you can't separate infrastructure from housing, because we can look at adding ADUs, but that then increases the amount of congestion on residential streets. We can look at apartment buildings, but if we don't have mass transit, are we just creating more cars that are then going to clog up the streets, lessen safety, reduce walkability? And so what we build is as important as how we choose to build it going forward and where it's placed. And I would love to see more neighborhoods that have zoning for commercial and retail space built into them, for childcare, for jobs where people can walk to work. That's not going to end all of the congestion issues, but at least it helps stem some of those problems. I also think we need to look at some of and this is not something we can do on the city level, but we do need to advocate for some better building codes and liability claims for builders who want to build multifamily housing units, because some of those restrictions do keep some of those builders out of that marketplace, where we might be able to get more affordable housing built if it did pencil out for them a little bit better.
Bill, it's your turn.
Okay, going last on this one's a tough one because I really agree, probably isn't a good answer. So first, I think we can talk about this a lot, but we cannot do nothing. We can't say it doesn't work to build ADUs because we'll have more traffic. We have to do something. We have to enshrine the acceptance of auxiliary dwelling units and tiny houses to give us affordable housing. Kat's entirely right. There are mechanisms that can be used to bring the cost down, and the idea of using city-owned land or community-owned land so that the price includes only the sticks and bricks, as Kat called it. I would say you buy the house, but you don't own the land, but it makes it cheaper for you. And I think that's a terrific idea. And I would encourage the Northwest Crossing style of building where you have both residential and business together. Now, I live in the southwest corner of Redmond, and if I want to get gas, I've got to go a long way. If you live in the northeast corner, you're in the same boat. We have a lot of services downtown, but we have not kept up with moving services and affordable housing outside of our downtown area.
Thanks.
I'm done.
Kat, we are gonna come to you first this time. I got right. Population growth is a big issue for Redmond. How can Redmond maintain and also enhance its quality of life while managing this kind of growth?
Well, there's no crystal ball for growth. I think we're going to see that we're going to have a little bit of a slowdown here, just given our current economy. But I think all the things we're talking about, deferring back to what John said about responsible growth, responsible infrastructure, creating communities where you have a pocket of services. This is what has always made Redmond cohesive, is that we've always prided ourselves on creating great neighborhoods. And that's across the board in all lifestyles and all types. And I think if we continue to keep an eye on that prize and keep our communities in that walkability and friendly, personally, I'd love to see childcare centers in all of these communities, places where families could have a cohesive center. I think that will keep Redmond a great place to live. People feel intrinsic better when they can come home and go out and go to the dog park, pick their kid up from around the corner, grab a coffee with a friend, walk to your local pub. These are all things I think we enjoy as part of the Central Oregon lifestyle, and looking to create that as part of our community footprint, I think is really an important thing. And again, the infrastructure is going to matter. The transportation corridors, the ability to travel easily to where people want to go.
Thank you. John?
So this has been my bumper sticker trade line since I started this whole process. I have maintained that only as working as neighbors can we grow as a community. And one of the biggest things that you hear is people want to keep that small town feel. And I maintain, and I will go to my grave believing that the small town feel has nothing to do with the population size. It is about how neighbors treat neighbors. And this is something where I think the city council can have a direct impact. And it's really important as to who we pick to serve. Because you can tell, the four of us on stage, we get along pretty well. We like each other. And setting an example where city councilors can disagree, but still come together and find ways to move forward, I think is hugely important and starts the city off on the right foot. The whole "I'm right, therefore you're evil" thing is self-defeating, and it does not benefit anybody. And we've seen some of that start to pop its head up in Redmond, and I think we need to stop it. When it comes to growth, we absolutely do need to make sure that our neighborhoods are interwoven, that it is walkable, that it is bikeable, and then look toward more community events. We have the Starlight Parade, we've got the Trick or Treat downtown coming up. Those things increase livability. The community events make people buy into the town they live in, and they take pride in it. And it's one of the reasons why I've lived here for 20 years and I wouldn't raise my kids anywhere else.
Great, thank you, John. Phil, it's your turn.
All right, we're talking about responsible growth, and I agree with John that entails livability. And so we have a number of layers to make this happen and to grow responsibility. But the biggest and the most important is planning. And if we do not plan well, and Redmond has a good bit of distance it can go in improving its planning, I think that's our biggest key. Now, I would support enterprise sites, both for business and for housing, where you have tax benefits in these enterprise zones. And it helps to bring in new and more affordable houses, new affordable businesses. We also have to treat the east and west side of 97 the same. And right now, we don't do a very good job of that. The west side of 97 is the downtown, and the east side are those guys out in the sticks. One of the things that would help us a lot would be if we would put up the blue Department of Transportation road signs that point off to points of interest or businesses, so that you could have a knowledge of what's happening in Redmond as you drive through it. And lastly, I would say that if you're going to improve responsible growth, you have to have a responsible city. And so we have to have a welcoming city. We have to have a safe city. And the city council has a big part, maybe a bully pulpit, to make that happen. Thank you.
We are to Catherine now, I believe, right?
Yep.
Catherine, you're muted. You're muted. There you go.
Am I good?
You're good.
You're good. No, you were muted. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Definitely.
Population growth is a big issue for Redmond. How can Redmond maintain and/or enhance its quality of life while also managing this growth?
Right, so you're right. The planning that we had put in place was for 3 people per day. That's at one point we had 11.8 people a day. I believe that's right. Quoting Kat actually on that number. And so even the planning we put into place, we could not expect the unexpected. So with that said, we are lucky that we do have a city and staff that try very hard to plan for a strong and resilient economic performance here in town. Some of the ways we do that is, research shows that travel, tourism, recreation are the key. And so I think by supporting our bond and for the Parks and Rec, we're supporting recreation by continuing to bring in destination places around the city. We're supporting our tourism. We have feet on the ground. They're increasing our economic impact. Places such as, SCP Hotel, General Duffy's, the Music Center. These are all places that have come in recently and are thriving, and we need to continue to attract places like that. And the way we do that is continuing to keep our reputation of being a family and business friendly city. As we move forward, I think ways we can do that, we already have a lot of green space in place, but as we develop new areas of town, continuing to preserve green space. As someone else mentioned, walkability, bike paths, mass transit, even making sure that we are communicating what environmental credits are out there so that we can have more parking for cars. Parking is a personal passion of mine. So anytime we can do a parking plug, we stick that in there. Bike lanes, etc. The whole goal is by creating housing and bringing in family wage jobs through all of those other pieces, Redmond grows as a place people want to continue to live.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm up. All right, so could you please give us some specifics on what your approach to improving multimodal transportation in Redmond would be, such as bikes, bus transit, etc.?
John, you're up.
Okay, so geographically, Redmond is actually super lucky to have the Dry Canyon. It is the perfect God-made bike trail. What we do need to do is we do need to work on more access points so that it is easier to get into and out of the canyon. It's also not the most ADA friendly of our city parks, and I would love to see that improved. As far as biking through downtown and things like that, that is going to require some additional planning. We need to look at how we create some more safe spaces for bikes. The South 97 revitalization project needs to look at some bike crossings to be able to get around and over 97 safely. Neighborhood wise, I do envision more bike lanes as we continue to grow and trying to backfill some of those. And we have got to have the bare bones, the skeleton of a mass transit system here in the next few years, because when we hit that 50,000 mark, it is going to be an absolute imperative. It's not going to be an option anymore. And then again, figuring out ways where we can limit the amount of distance that somebody has to travel. Right now, all traffic is basically directed to 97 and Highland. And we've got to kind of stop that ditch effect where all of the cars are driven onto two roads, because my commute can be very dangerous, and we need to figure out how to get additional north-south lanes, thoroughfares built on the west side, and then east-west corridors built on the north and south ends of town to try to ease some of that traffic.
Thanks, John. Bill?
Well, I think certainly we want to talk about transit in a larger scope than just biking, and it comes down again to planning. I keep harping on this, but planning is what provides the solutions to get things done. And so we need a discussion about a regional transit. It may not happen as quickly as we would like, but we need to include Redmond, Madras, Lapine, Prineville, Bend, all of transportation within this region, and we are beginning to get there. We're seeing federal dollars being contributed that are going to help us with transit problems. We're seeing some road work, particularly between Veterans Way and U, that is going to modify 97 in a manner that helps, but it's not enough. We need safety, car safety, to improve our transit efforts. And so I'd like to have a discussion about putting dividers between the north and south lanes, both north and south of Redmond, so you don't have these terrible head-on collisions that we've seen so much of. And one way to approach this is through grants. And so it's not enough, but it's a start. And again, it takes planning so that we are able to see where we're going, not put blinders on and look at one solution, but plan for the future.
Catherine?
So I'm really lucky because I've got some friends and I've listened to the people who talk on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, who kind of given me some insight into what the future plan is for Redmond bikeability, transit, etc. I know that a project was finished that put in quiet streets. And so just making sure, like Phil said, that the money is there, the funding is approved to continue to create those quiet streets so that our family and workers can safely travel. This includes, and as budgets go to like the markings on the road for the bicyclist, having the bicyclist only like lanes. In addition to that, though, I know that I believe, and somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, there was a new bus stop that is in the works to be approved or has been approved downtown. So I think there's more options for putting in more of those stops. Love to see one on the east side of town, like Bill said, to kind of help bring us together a little more, but also because we do have a fairly large homeless camp on that end of town who access to transportation would give them more access to services, work, and paths out of houselessness. And again, just sometimes you have to look towards the experts. So being a listening ear so the experts can tell us what they need from us to make sure the city has what it needs moving forward.
Thank you. Kat?
So going back to this, I think having that inside information and knowing is exactly what Catherine said. There is a really intensive and detailed Southwest area plan for Highway 97 and the transit routes around and through Redmond, trying to take some of that heavier industrial traffic and route it through the airport and over to 126, adding some roundabouts. And of course, adding more walkability, safe driving, and bike and pedestrian paths through the 97 corridor. To do that, it does take funding. And so those are things that they're actively working on currently at the city level in grants and federal funding. And it's going to take a very strong mayor who can go to bat with our legislatures to make sure we're first in line for that funding. I'm also really happy that we have good relationships with Cascade East, which is our transit between Redmond, Bend, Prineville, and Lapine. So they're working with us to add those extra routes and bus stops to help moving through the city be a little easier for people. But again, we don't have enough stops. So that's conversations we'll have to continue. And then my personal favorite is there is a goal to have an interconnected city that is both walkable and bikeable. So we have maps and paths in line in all of our plans for each corridor of how we plan to interconnect the city as it grows and builds. So again, it comes back to the funding and reaching out for those additional grants for our pedestrian and bike trails. Because for me, it would be very exciting to be able to bike everywhere I loved in the city and enjoy it. So those things are all in our big picture. We just need to, as a council, help prioritize which sections get done and make sure that people are having the right conversations to get the right either private, public funding or grants if available. So very exciting to see those things happen.
Catherine, did you want to follow up?
I don't know if rebuttal is the right word, just follow up with that. I do believe that the trail that she is referencing, that information is online, which I do appreciate that it is Googleable, that you can as a citizen. Yeah, as a
You're talking about the
citizen, you
interconnected
can,
city-
what?
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Do you talking about the interconnected city plan that she referenced?
For the bike path, correct.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's called Canyon Trail or something. Don't quote me on that part, but it is out there. I've seen it.
Okay, we'll follow up on
Great.
that. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to just touch on public safety in Redmond. Let's see, where are we at? We ended with Kat on that one, so this is starting with Bill. What's your approach to public safety in Redmond? Is the Redmond Police Department adequately funded? And what else would you like to see funded in terms of public safety in Redmond?
Well, I think that Redmond has taken a really big step by funding the public safety buildings. So we have $45 million in a recent bond that will give us a new police station. I recently met the Redmond police chief, and this gentleman is terrific, and Redmond, I think, is very lucky to have him working for us. I think that we have new leadership and new facilities, and Redmond is poised to be a very safe city. But what is missing is we need to be a welcoming city. We need to be expressing that we accept diversity. We need to be willing to talk with all people and show respect to all people. And so this is a public safety issue in my mind. The other thing that is holding Redmond back, I think, is its unwillingness to condemn hate speech and the Confederate flags that were flown in the parade here. And again, this is likely to change. I think under the new police chief, this is all headed in the right direction. And I'm very proud of what we've done for public safety. And I think we have a real opportunity to go in the correct direction. So we're better off than we would have been a few years ago.
Great. Anyone need a repeat? Happy to do that. It was a two-part question and it goes on to Catherine.
I love a repeat because
Okay,
I'm writing them down.
Is the Redmond Police Department adequately funded? And what else would you like to see funded in terms of public safety in Redmond?
So I'm going to reiterate that I do believe we have a very capable police chief in place now, and that we've taken a right step with the passing of the new safety funds. With that, it's a multifaceted issue, right? Because we are having a housing crisis, because we need more recreation space, because people are moving here in masses, it does feel like our crime rates are increasing, and it's making people really uncomfortable. And so one of the things I think we could do a really good job with is do some funding of information spreading of what money is going where, what taxing districts are receiving, and what they need moving forward. Because the more information we have, the more we reduce fear, and then we reduce the divisiveness. Now that's a big, broad, sweeping thing. But to answer your question, what do you think we can do better? I do think we can do a better job of funding our fire department. I know some conversations have happened there that they are in need of more funding also. We could do more wildfire education. We've seen what's happened to our neighbors. We have a lot of great things in place, but wildfire education, I think, should be a priority. And I really do support any program service providers, people who are bringing mental health services to our town, because we have an extreme deficit there. It is very hard to get a counselor. And when you have people who aren't getting the care they need, crime rates increase. So we need to, as a city council, housing, mental health, fire, wildfire, there's so many pieces. So two-part question, really hard to answer in 2 minutes, but thank you for letting me try.
Yeah, of course. That, we understand 2 minutes is never enough. But it's Friday night. We all want to go do other things after this.
So we're
Kat,
talking fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kat, you are up.
So I think for today, yes, we have adequately funded the police department given where we are with our current building and our current needs, but our needs are changing and growing every day, and we are going to step into more needs as we go. So I don't think, oh yeah, we're correctly funded applies to the future, because we're growing and we're going to have bigger needs, as Catherine has noted. I do think it would be nice, especially for our current Chief Lewis and his staff, to have some more school resource officers. Not all of our schools have a full-time school resource officer. And I think our parents would feel much happier with boots on the ground school resource officer there to help the kids and oversight. It's a really good way to interact with the community. Helping our police with mental health services. Right now, if they have someone who has to have those services, they have to drive them into Bend. We do have a day facility that the county is opening here from Monday through Friday, but it would be really good to give them some of those resources here in their own backyard and to help with that community outreach. They have been very intrinsic in some of our outreach, even to our unhoused, and helping with different cleanup issues and things, trying not to be upsetting. So I'm actually very proud of the police force and what they've done in the past few years, and working through the pandemic and where we are today. So I think our support of them in the future would be making sure that they are correctly funded to meet the needs that are in front of them, and to help with that community outreach about the positive things that they do.
Great, and we will finish this question up with John.
So when I decided I was stupid enough to run for city council and put my name out there, one of the first things that I did was I reached out to each of the different department heads within the city. And to their credit, they all made themselves available. And so when I met with Chief Lewis, he is confident where we are with staffing today. However, where he kind of sees a need is more administrative and operational personnel kind of behind the scenes. He's confident where we have, kind of police officers on patrol. I do think more resource officers in the school, to Kat's point, would be very welcome, especially, we had a lockdown here recently. And so having that extra level of protection as a parent I will never say no to that. The city right now has a goal of about 1 employee per 150 people in the city. And we've got, last number I got was about 242. So we're just a little bit underneath that curve. And I think that's probably a pretty good number. But that number does include police, municipal workers, administrative staff at City Hall. It's kind of everything soup to nuts that falls within the city limits. And I do agree that as we continue to grow, we're going to need to see that number increase. We also need to make sure that we're treating them fairly and taking care of them, because we really do have an amazing city staff, and we've got some wonderfully skilled people. And I don't want to see us lose qualified people because we're not keeping up and we're not attracting the best and the brightest to run our home.
Thanks, John. Bill, you want to follow up?
I would like to follow up because I left something out. And so, yes, I do think that we are funded appropriately, but when it comes to what I'd like to see funded, there are really two things. One is that I have had the opportunity to work with the board for New Priorities Family Services, which is a mental health counseling group, and I have seen the need firsthand. So that is one. The other one is we need to fund the rec center, because I heard a current city councilor say we can either fund that or fund jails.
John, you got your hand up?
I just wanted to add that for the record that I did publicly support and sign the paperwork to be in the ballot measure supporting the police fund. So that seems to be relevant to a lot of folks, but I was in favor.
Catherine, this next question will start with you. How would you characterize the work of the past city council over the last 2 years? Perhaps give them a grade and then explain how you arrived at that grade.
I love this question because we got this same question at the senior center and we all avoided it because there was a room full of city councilors staring at us and it was extremely uncomfortable. Um, so I'll say similarly what I said there. Report cards are kind of difficult when you think about the fact that they have line items, right? And so you can grade things down. So I would say that I'm going to say satisfactory with room for improvement. The reason I say that is our city council was faced with unprecedented issues. They had to deal with a pandemic. They had to deal with a political unrest, unseen in our country before. But when you actually look at their voting history and the real data of the numbers, when they were faced with things that were important to see, they voted 7-0. They came together and they worked together. There were some fails. There were some big fails, and they were based on communication. But I sat in the room one day when they owned those failures and said, "You're right. We'll do better and we'll fix it moving forward." So I think sometimes we forget that city councilors are human beings. Sometimes they're limited on their information. Do I think they could do better? Yes. Am I here because I want our city to do better? Absolutely. Can I judge someone who had to make decisions in a pandemic? It's a really tough call. So let's just do like satisfactory, room for improvement, plus mark, because you get extra bonus points that our city fared pretty well economically through the pandemic.
I like the bonus points for pandemic. I've not heard that one before.
Yeah, that's a really teacherly response.
Kat, do you need the question repeated, or do you have it?
Yes, please.
Sure. How would you characterize the work of the past city council? Perhaps give them a grade and explain how you arrived at that.
So since I've been on city council the last 10 months, my grade is going to have to fall somewhere in incomplete because I don't feel like I've made it through the full term. I will say one of the things that motivated me to apply for the open position was my feeling that they needed some help getting to the finish line on some items, and I was not understanding paths that were being taken. So in that aspect, that would definitely give me the satisfactory yet incomplete, because I do feel that when given troublesome tasks and having had the experience, council and staff goes out of their way, out of the sight of public eye, to have subject matter experts come in and educate us and talk to us and to work with stakeholders and try to derive the best answer. And sometimes in this case, there is no A and there is no F. There is only the tolerable middle, because you're bringing two sides together to get to that. And so that optically is going to look like a C, but it's what it takes to move forward. So I think that that's an important fact there. And then also I feel like, yeah, there have been fails. And honestly, we've sat in the room and I've been part of that, saying, wow, you know what, we missed a step. Let's go back and do this better. So having a lessons learned mentality of, this is where we were, this was our objective, and this is what we've learned from the path we took. Let's do this better and try it over here. That's a really exciting and good thing. I don't feel that council has not been communicative since I've been on it. I feel like everybody's reached out and done a very good job.
All right, thanks, Kat. John?
So my answer, as it was last time, is it has to be an incomplete, because the work is never finished. Really, all you're doing is you're trying to move forward as best you can with the tools that you've got. And I think that the city staff has done an amazing job of doing that. Where I do see room for improvement is on council communication with the public. I would like to see a less divisive council that works better together. One of the things that motivated me to get up and to raise my hand was, in a council meeting, I heard one of the councilors in a closing remark saying that we can't do anything about the homeless because people keep electing liberal-minded individuals to state and federal offices. Which, even if you believe that was true, your answer as a councilman can't be, it's really hard, so I give up. Like, we can debate whether it's conservative or liberal policies. We can debate around the finer points, but you don't get to say we can't do anything about it and then say, I want to be in leadership. And that to me is something that we can do better than. And that's why, to me, I can't give it a passing grade, but I also know we're not done yet, which is why I can't give it a failure.
Thanks, John. Bill?
Well, I was the only one when we got this question last time to give a letter grade, and I gave a C, and I might move that up to a C plus. But I was a professor, and we couldn't weasel out of giving letter grades when it came time to give a grade. So the reason that I say it's a C plus is that Redmond's done a lot of great things, good things. It's a passing grade, and our previous city leaders deserve to be congratulated for the good they've done, but it can't be an A because we haven't achieved the appropriate communications, and the safe parking mess that we saw recently shows that. It can't be a better grade until we put citizens' questions first at the meeting so that you get those answered before it runs out of time and they get ignored. You've got to let councilors put agenda items on the agenda for the council instead of waiting for 4 of them to agree, so that the citizens' ideas can get shared. And you got to have better planning. Redmond will never get a better grade until they really know how to plan and use their planning. From 2000 to 2020, they had a 20-year plan with over 100 goals, and they accomplished 4 of them to completion. So they put that in a file cabinet. It sat in the file cabinet and nothing was done. We lost all of the input, all of the expense, and I think we can do much better. So I'll stick with a C to C plus, and I think Redmond has room to improve. I'd like to help it do that.
Thank you. Kat, you have something you want to comment on?
I'm just going to add, because Bill loves his 2020 example. So I was on planning commission for the 2040 plan. And what we talked about was how unobtainable 120 goals were. So we took the goals down to a more obtainable number for 2040. And we talked about the need to come back and look at it not every 20 years, but review it, because we grow differently often than the plan does. Just like we decided on housing needs and current growth. It's not the 3 people a day, it was the 11 people a day. What does that look like now? Let's revisit the plan. So I think that Redmond has improved because they learned from 2020 and they tried to do it better for 2040.
Okay, thank you. Bill, go ahead.
I would just say we're 2 years into the new plan, which has had a lot of input. A lot of groups got together to create that plan. A great investment, and I hope Kat is right. I hope that now we have learned a lot, and I hope that the council uses that plan to drive decision-making rather than use it as a file cabinet filler.
Thanks. Judy, you're up.
Okay, so question that we like to ask our candidates. Say something you appreciate about your opponents in this race. And
You can choose one, you can choose all, you guys
right.
can do however you want to do that.
one of your opponents, all of them, whichever you decide to go. And who do we start with here?
Well, we ended with Bill just now, so that means.
No, I think I threw this at Catherine first.
Yeah.
Catherine, are you up first this time? Yeah,
No,
go ahead.
I believe it's Kat.
Kat.
Oh, Kat, you're up.
Again.
One of the two. Oh, I love this question. This has been the best race ever in the sense of my opponents, because I don't find that I have an opponent. I have contemporaries with the same heart and the same drive and the same desire to volunteer and create a great community. I have spent a lot of time, well, Catherine's a personal friend of mine, but I've spent a lot of time learning about John. I've had coffee with Bill, and I really feel that I can work with any of these people here because we really have shared conversations and talked about our goals. And I know that we will have things we don't agree upon, but I know that, again, we won't mire in and not come to what needs to happen. They're an exciting and fabulous group of people. I love their energy.
Thanks, Kat. John? Something nice about your opponent.
Yeah, that is not a difficult question to ask us. It might be for some of the other races you guys have covered, but honestly, I have spent time getting to know Catherine and Kat, and to a lesser extent Bill, but I am very proud to say that they are all my friends. And however the election comes out, I am confident that Redmond is in good hands. And we don't all agree on the path, but we all agree on the destination. And I think that is a hugely important thing going forward, especially when we look, at state level and at national level politics for, the four of us and Brannigan, who I'm sorry couldn't be with us today, to all get into a room and say, yeah, nobody's going to take a punch. Nobody's the bad guy. Nobody's spitting or calling each other names. It really has been exhausting, but an absolute pleasure, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Thanks, John. Bill.
Well, I just agree. The four people here, and I don't know Brannigan as well, so I'll leave that alone. But of the four of us, I have talked with all of these people. Every one of the people running, in my opinion, is running from their heart. They are running for city council for the right reason. They have the right goal in mind, and it's a better Redmond. It's a Redmond that where we're going to want to live in 20 years. And so, like John, I would call any of these people my friend. I would work well and successfully, I think, with any of them. And Redmond is way ahead by having these bright, interested, energetic, smart people running for city council. So I have great hope for Redmond because they've attracted great people to run for office.
Catherine.
I
Something nice.
resemble all of that. No, absolutely the same. So as John said, we may not all have the same opinion, but I'll tell you, we can sit down at a table, we can share the information we have, we can share why we do or don't agree on something. And I think we can come together and make really good decisions. But past that, like Bill said, we are lucky that everybody showed up with a heart and a passion for Redmond. Redmond is representing itself, and it's just the wonderful small town it's trying to hold on to. Its neighborliness, like it's sitting right here in front of you today. So aside from just this campaign, I mean, John invited me to Rotary. I love Rotary. I didn't know anything about it. And like to expose me to this group was fantastic. Kat and I drove to John Day together to work on wildfire initiative to make sure that we could keep development costs down in Redmond. This was all outside of the campaign. I walk into a room, Bill smiles and shakes my hand, and we get to chatting. He even grades papers the rest of us won't grade. So I know this is probably not what's happened with everyone else around you, but we like each other. I wish there was room at the table for everyone. There's been years in the past where nobody stepped up, and now we got a whole army of people wanting to do the right thing for our town.
Well, you're certainly an enjoyable group to sit. John, did you have something else you wanted to?
One thing
Nice thing to say about everybody.
I was just going to throw everybody under the bus and completely change my mind. No, what I was going to say was that one thing that Catherine did not point out, that I did not point out, is that our kids play together, and our little boys absolutely just adore each other, and it really is a joy to be amongst this group.
Thank you.
Jack's got one more fun one for us all.
Awesome, and I think we're starting with John this time.
Yep, that's true.
So,
Yes.
where would we find you on a Friday night, not during campaign season?
Not during campaign season?
Yep.
Well, so my day job is I manage a credit union here in town, and so usually that keeps me here pretty late on Fridays because we have extended hours. After that, I am going to be home with my twin 7-year-olds, my significantly better half, And we will be at home usually around the barbecue or playing in the backyard. We've got a St. Bernard and a Great Pyrenees. And that is pretty much my life. So,
Yeah, that's 2 more kids right there.
Yeah.
well,
Bill?
weight-wise, it's about 4 more kids. So.
Yeah.
And Bill, you're up.
Okay. Right now's a little bit tougher time. You will find me every weekend in Washougal, Washington, where I'm the executor for an estate of a friend of mine who recently died. And so it's a big place, lots of problems, and I'm spending every weekend up there getting the house ready to be sold, property distributed to the family, and so a bit of a job. During the day, you'll probably find me hiking. I hike a lot with my wife and friends, and we make probably 5 to 10 mile hikes each week. And then many nights I play music with my buddy from Bend. We play sometimes in the pubs, sometimes we'll just get together and have a beer and play at my house. Mostly blues and folk, but we have enjoyed playing music for the community and for ourselves.
Thanks, Bill.
Catherine?
The campaign hasn't changed my Friday nights very much. Sometimes I have more interesting events to go to, but Friday nights typically look the same. Right now, there's about 4 kids having a sleepover at my house, and they're all standing in the driveway because I won't let them in the house because there's a Zoom call. They were at the Quince Park, and now they're texting me, asking me if they can go to Snow Cap, because we like to do that on the weekends. Kids like the ice cream. We may be going up to the Moose Lodge because they have a playground outside. And let's see, where do I want to be on Friday night? If I get to be on a date night, we head downtown. We try to support local businesses, especially the Rooftop Bar. It's one of my favorites. And then after everyone gets put to bed, and you know how late sleepovers go, if there's any energy left, I typically yard sale Friday mornings because I like to do vintage, like treasure hunting. And I'm usually going through all of that mess and getting it out of my garage so that we can get ready for soccer on Saturday morning.
Thank you.
And last up is Kat.
Boy, Friday nights. Well, a little bit like John, I own a small boutique real estate brokerage. So on Fridays, I'm usually doing last minute filing and cleaning up the books and everything from my brokers and making sure that's done. And then depending on the schedule of my household, I'm either going to come home and cook dinner and get some things done at my house, or I will go out downtown with my significant other and enjoy a date night. And if nobody's demanding my time, I might actually sneak in and read a good book because I am addicted to the written word. So that would be my Friday. And then generally Saturday and Sunday, if I'm not campaigning, those are work days for me because I am in real estate. So I'm usually at my office.
Awesome. Those are the ends of that's the end of our questions. And I know we went over an hour, so apologies for that. Lots to digest here. Do we want to just do 1 minute wrap for
Yeah.
everybody?
I don't, my phone died, I don't have it.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
So I think we are at, Bill will give you 1 minute to speak to anything we might have overlooked and tell people why they should vote for you on the way out. Bill?
All right. Well, I think we all recognize the dynamic growth going on in Redmond, in and around Redmond. It's moving fast, and we're going to have to move fast to stay ahead of it. The true test, I think, for our city leadership is going to be how well they manage this growth, how well they manage safety and traffic, critical services that we need. And we can expect that to be a challenge, okay? So all I'd like to say is I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to the citizens, to the police, the fire, business people, everybody, and listen. And that I want Redmond to be the place where we want to live 20 years from now, and I hope to contribute to that. So thank you for having us today, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Catherine?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to all of y'all. I know it's Friday night, so I appreciate you. I believe that I will bring experience, passion, and compassion to our city council. I think my business and service experience has taught me the value of continuing to support creative housing solutions, promoting Redmond as a business and family-friendly city. Because we need to attract more family wage jobs. We need to advocate for our service providers and programs that support those at risk for houselessness, and for those who have already fallen into it and are trying to seek a way out. And I'm just going to continue to use my voice to promote our city. And finally, I just encourage everyone to support me and support everyone here, because we're looking for partnerships and not partisanship.
Thank you, Catherine. Kat?
So I would just first thank you very much, because even though it's Friday, I got me Friday at my house versus Friday at my office. So thank you. I am very much would appreciate the opportunity to continue the work I started 10 months ago. It's going to be a very interesting start to the new year. We are going to have a new mayor and a relatively new council. And so I think having the little bit of experience I have to hit the ground running and know that I can build a cohesive and collaborative relationship with my peers on the council would be an exciting opportunity moving forward. I have a really good grip from my background in real estate and my time on planning with what we might need to do to get more affordable housing in our infrastructure. And I'd like the opportunity to put that in place, as well as working with the wetlands complex for a much better green septic and sewer system. And then my pet project will be to continue helping with getting affordable childcare into Redmond in an abundance for the people that live here. So I think there's just so much that we can do, and the growth and opportunity will continue if we just all can continue to collaborate and work together. And like Catherine said, there's not a bad person. So I think you just have to recognize we all want the best Redmond that there can be.
Thanks, Kat. John?
So in terms of things that we didn't really get to, I want to emphasize the importance of a productive council that can reach out and work with the county, because so much of the funding, so many of the issues that we have to deal with really are going to require county and multi-city partnerships. So on the personal side, I'm running because I've lived here for 20 years. For 15 years, I have worked with individuals. And right now, the credit union that I supervise, we've got about 1 in every 8 checking accounts. And so I have helped people in my community on a personal level. And it does not get a whole lot more personal than their bank account. And so if we are looking increasingly like we're going to be going into an economic downturn, I think my experience in finance as an underwriter is really going to be helpful to helping the city move forward and to continue to grow in the right, responsible way.
Well, that concludes this portion of our endorsement interviews. I really appreciate, the congeniality between all of you. I can tell you that's certainly not the case in a lot of the endorsement interviews we do. But also just thank you for putting yourselves out there and for having your heart in the right place and being willing to step in and spend your Fridays like this. So
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy your evening.